Hi, everyone. It's Andrea Quocenti, and I'm excited to be here for our 15th group call for the self-directed education group on Facebook. We are also called Unschoolers, and I'm super happy to have some guests here on the call. And so today we're going to talk with Emmett, who is in the self-directed education group, and she's kind of our guest today. We met just from Facebook, I guess, right, Emmett? From like chatting here and there.
I think so. Yeah, I think we met on Facebook.
Awesome. So we're both in Massachusetts. Well, right now I'm in Maine, but where my home base is in Massachusetts, and Emmett is in Western Mass, so we share that in common. And Emmett, you're a grown homeschooler, which is like so exciting for us. The other three of us on this call right now have younger children, probably like elementary age and younger. So maybe if you can tell us a little bit about your experience growing up, like it must be so cool, like that your parents even knew about unschooling, like back when you were a kid. So yeah, we'd love to learn more if you can share your experience and even maybe how your parents got there.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm 26 now. I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me. We grew up in Connecticut. It started out with attachment parenting. My mom was really into attachment parenting. At that point, she was married to my dad. They divorced when I was 6. But so she was really into this whole attachment parenting thing. Really got into that community. And then when my brother was old enough to go to preschool, she went and checked out a couple local preschools, and it just didn't feel right for her. So she said, "Okay, we're going to homeschool." This is before I was born. We're going to homeschool, and started out kind of on a homeschooling track with him. I was born. My brother's on the spectrum and just did what was not interested in a lot of the more typical sit down, do work, do a workbook, do a worksheet. He just wasn't interested in that. And he was a hyper literate kid, started reading independently at the age of 3 years old, and was just really focused on reading. He just loved reading. And through that, I think my parents kind of started to go down a little bit more of a relaxed homeschooling or eclectic homeschooling kind of
Okay.
road. We didn't have the word unschooling yet. My parents did not know what that was at this time.
Okay.
So I think for a lot of people is the case. Uh,
Okay.
and they started kind of, just really pursuing this, reading John Holt, reading John Taylor Gatto, kind of getting into some of the literature. My mom found Grace Llewellyn's Teenage Liberation Handbook and started kind of getting a little bit more into the unschooling world through some of that sort of classic literature. Then we actually started attending the conference that I now run when I was 11, and that's when we really, or maybe I was a little younger than that. It was more like 8, probably more like 8.
Wow.
And that's when we really started to kind of dive into the world of unschooling, and calling it that, really identifying that way, using that word with ourselves and our, extended family and our community of homeschoolers who were less than stoked about this, wacky thing that we were doing. It worked out really well for our family. It was kind of exactly what our family needed. Like I mentioned, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 6, and my mom remarried a woman, and they're together to this day. My brother lives out in Chicago with his fiance, and I live here in Western Mass. I went to college when I was 19. I had never done a single moment of any kind of formalized education ever before. I didn't do community college. I didn't do any, testing. I didn't do nothing. I woke up one day and I said, "You know what? I think I'd like to go to college." I kind of knew I wanted to work with at-risk youth in a little bit more serious capacity, and to do that kind of work, you need a degree. So I said, "All right, I'll go get my degree." And I did.
Awesome.
I went to Hampshire College in Amherst, Mass. Full-time 4-year program, lived on campus, got in with an academic honors scholarship for unschooling. I wrote my own high school transcript. It was about 11,000 words. The sort of narrative of all the stuff I did and my interests and the books I was reading and the projects
Wow.
I'd worked on, and just kind of this. I mean, I thought, this is crazy. They're never going to accept this. I don't have a high school equivalency. I didn't get my GED. It didn't do anything like that. They accepted me with a really strong yes. Went
Wow.
there for 4 years, graduated in 2019 with a degree in public health,
Hey, I
focusing
have a
in,
question.
oh yeah,
Can I ask you? Um, awesome. First of all, well, so we had this conversation. So, so as for you getting into college, did you take the SATs?
I did not.
Okay, no SATs, no high school diploma, no
Nope.
GED,
Nope.
just the transcript that you personally wrote?
Yes. With help from
Wow.
my mom, of course. You
Okay.
know, she helped with a lot of it. But her
Okay.
and I really sat down with another unschooling mom,
Okay.
my best friend's mom, and the three of us really kind of worked on just workshopping it, and
Awesome.
yeah, really came up with this sort of. And I can share it. I have a shareable version that I can drop in the Zoom chat too. That's just kind of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
If you can put it actually in the Facebook group, if you're comfortable sharing
totally.
it on that level,
Yeah,
because that is a big topic of conversation.
I know.
And it was just on, it was just a couple of weeks ago. So congratulations. Yay. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I'm so glad that you figured it out on your own terms and yay. So, yeah, I just wanted to stop for a minute, but yeah, so
Yeah.
continue, please.
Yeah, yeah. I really wanted to do it in a way that felt authentic to my life. I also wasn't sure I would do well on the SAT. I didn't live that kind of life. I was really interested in a lot of the things that are on the SAT. I love science. That's kind of what I've pursued. It's where I'm at now. But I wasn't sure that I'd be able to sit down and take a test and, answer these, what is a libosome? What is a ribosome? Like I didn't know that I would really be able to perform in that kind of way. I also have a profound learning disability. I'm extremely dyslexic. So my brother's reading at 3, and I'm still not reading by the time I'm 13. So really
Wow.
opposite ends of the spectrum with that for my mom. I commend her for kind of rolling with both of those situations. And it remains an issue for me. My reading is still a struggle. I've been in reading tutoring for probably 5 or 6 years as a teenager. So it was not for lack of trying. But yeah, my father's dyslexic, my grandfather's dyslexic, I'm dyslexic. Runs in the family.
Wow.
But yeah, so I went to Hampshire College, graduated with my degree in public health, and immediately started working at an unschooling centered high school called Lighthouse Holyoke in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which is where I live. I work there to this day, and I am now a grad student at Columbia University for my master's degree in social work, where I was also accepted with academic honors for both my undergrad and my unschooling background. Columbia did not bat an eye at unschooling. I used the word unschooling through my entire application process. I told all the admissions counselors about it. I was very clear about what unschooling is. I did not pretend it's homeschooling. And I do that partly because I really believe in it, and I really kind of want to pave the way. I think the more we use this terminology and the more we embrace it, the more admissions counselors say, oh, I've heard of that. We had an amazing unschooled student here before. We know how to deal with that. Yeah, just finished my first semester, 4.0. First time
Wow.
my undergraduate did not do tests. So I never took a test until grad school. I was so nervous. Never a day in my life until my graduate program. And yeah, it was no detriment.
Wow. That's so awesome. Thank you. I think it's all about being, in the internal drive. And I think once that drive is there, you just work through whatever challenges or, was that your biggest fear, taking a test?
I was really nervous about the test process just because I think it's hard for people who have been in school to actually imagine what it's like to go through your whole life. I've never seen a test before. My high school is based on unschooling, and we don't do tests.
Yeah.
I've never administered a test. I've never seen a test. I've never taken a test. The only test I've ever taken is my dyslexia diagnosis. And that's, it's more of a neuropsych than a standardized test.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was pretty nervous about that. People talk all about this test anxiety and how, test taking is a skill, and that is true. Test taking is its own skill set. I was lucky enough that Columbia, because of my background in unschooling and my dyslexia, they had me meet with a learning specialist when I first got to Columbia to literally tutor me in the skill of test taking.
Wow.
So
Yay.
that's all we did together. Just how do you take a test? How do you study for a test? And I asked for that, and they said, yeah, absolutely, for sure. And so I sat down with a learning tutor once a week for 5 weeks. I think we met 5 times. And she just, all the shortcuts, the things that I didn't know. Like, I did not know that it's almost never D, for example. Like, in a multiple choice, it's almost never D. I didn't know that. Right? So she was like, if you're between A and D, just pick A. I'm like, to me, that seems ridiculous. Like, why, if there's a code to hack, then is that really showing you're learning it anyway? And she, I would bring these things up in our meetings, and she would say, you're overthinking it. Just pick A.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. If you can hear me, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So it seems like you were so empowered to go to college. I feel like a lot of times, students who, maybe not a lot of times, but something that can happen is that students who unschool might have a self-fulfilling prophecy, like just fear of like, well, I did stuff so different that I don't know if I'm going to be able to perform outside of what I'm used to. So I'm wondering, what do you think really helped you feel so empowered? Was it your mom, your parenting style, or was it you? Like, what helped you?
Such a great question. I think it is some of all. I think there's got to be some personality in there a little bit, has got to be some of it. And I also think, one thing about my mom and her parenting style is she wouldn't say, oh, you can do anything, you can be anything, because she has 2 neurodivergent kids. There's a lot of stuff I can't do, right? And so she would sit with me realistically and say, what would it look like to pursue this? What steps do we realistically need to take? And I'm also a first-generation college student, so neither of my parents, all 3 of them, my biological parents and my stepmom, none of them went to college. So it's kind of new terrain for all of us to even be figuring it out. And a thing I will say also that really helped me is that I found a college that was a really good fit for me. So I'm not sure I would have been quite so successful at a more traditional school. Hampshire College is no tests, no grades, open curriculum, you pursue your interests. And I was actually really afraid that was going to kind of box me in for grad school, that more traditional grad programs would say, okay, you did unschooling, whatever that is, then you went to this hippie college with no tests, and now all of a sudden you want to go to, a big state school. No. But I actually had the opposite experience. I got into every grad program that I applied to, all of them with academic honors for undergrad and for high school. So I actually didn't get too boxed in that way, which was really kind of an exciting revelation for me. But I think some of that empowerment to even go to college in the first place, I think it's kind of an internal drive too. Like, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work with, at-risk youth, and you're not going to do that without a degree. So I said, all right, I found a calling, I have to pursue it. And I think that is kind of the foundation of unschooling. You find your passions and you figure out your path. And I think that sort of unschooling background kind of prepared me in that way to say, all right, this is what I want to do. What's the next step? What do I do now?
I think that's amazing. Oh my goodness, there's so many good takeaways from what you just shared. I think for me, what really, really resonates about it is like, you don't have to try to be something that you're not. I think a lot. So I have this feeling too, like for me, I come from a really big spiritual background and my kids are unschoolers. And sometimes I've found like almost wanting to prove that I can like fit in or something like that, which makes you like take on containers or try to get into something that's not really for you. And that's when we find all the weird, clunky stuff that doesn't end up working the way we want it to work. I love how you just like went right for like something that speaks to you, not trying to fit into something else. It's like, nope, I'm going to be fully honest about who I am. I'm going to lay it out on the table. I'm going to find something that works for me. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, it was the same in my undergraduate admissions process. I used the word unschooling all along. I was really clear about maybe what some might consider to be gaps in my education. There's a lot of things that you do as an unschooler that other people don't. But let's be realistic. There are also things that you don't do that other people do. And so I was really just honest with them in that whole process. And yeah, just, I think that was a big thing for me, just kind of really trying to be authentic. And I knew with the critical lens that my parents had about school growing up and kind of talking to me about how arbitrary grades are, and how ridiculous standardized tests are, and how they don't serve people. I knew I wasn't going to be happy jumping ship to that system, right? I knew that this is my life, this is who I am, and just being authentic about that and finding a college that matched that was, it was like quintessential for me. And there's actually a resource called Colleges That Change Lives that has a lot of like alternative schools that are pretty resonant with unschooling.
Ooh, I didn't know that. You'll definitely have to share that with us as well, because I didn't realize that it makes sense now that you say it, but I didn't realize that there were certain colleges that cater to the unschooling philosophy. So that's a relief and very exciting for me. I think probably for all of us on this call and for anyone that's going to listen, that there is a path. And I love that you were just honest about who you are, what you've done and what you haven't done, and you just went into it wholeheartedly, rather than like, let me try to make myself fit what I think they're looking for. So bravo to you for being real and authentic and carving the path that way.
Thanks. Yeah, I did. I will say, when you see my transcript, you'll see I did kind of try and break down some of my learning activities as an unschooler into kind of, like math, English, social studies kind of categories, more as an organizational method for myself. How do you even start writing that? We lived in Connecticut. You don't have to file in Connecticut. We did not keep records of what I was doing.
Wow.
It's not like Massachusetts. There's no, at least when I was growing up, I don't know if the laws have changed, but there's no state filing. So you just kind of do your own thing. And so, I did zero formal learning, none.
Wow. Cool. I wonder if Connecticut is still like that, but we've got people all over the United States and also all over the globe. So I think, that's great for places that there's, low reporting. So
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. I have another question about so when you say you did no formal learning at all, I'm so curious about like what your unschooling at home looks like.
Yeah, so I did take classes and things that were interesting to me. Like I was really into pottery for a long time, and it still am. So I would take pottery classes at a local pottery studio. I was in yoga. I had a brief spell where I thought I was going to learn to play the fiddle. That did not materialize. So I took occasional classes here and there, community education courses, that sort of thing. I started a business with my mom and my brother when I was 15, I think, when we started, and we started teaching at homeschooling co-ops, mostly co-ops for younger kids, teaching these sort of creative, artistic classes for younger homeschoolers. And that was really a way at a moment in our family where we were having financial difficulty and trying to decide, how can we continue unschooling and not putting myself and my brother in high school, and also generating income for the family. And it was awesome. So a lot of my transcript is that, right? These classes that I was creating and teaching, and I worked on a farm for a while, and I'm really into fiber arts. There's a bunch of stuff in my room for it over there. But I do a lot of like hand spinning on a spinning wheel. This is a piece of my drop spindle. It's right here. So I did a lot of that kind of stuff. Volunteered with a lot of places, a couple nonprofits in particular. I just volunteered with them all the time. My parents are also really spiritual. My parents are pagan. And so we ran these sort of pagan Sabbats 8 times a year at our house, these big events for all 8 of the pagan holidays. And I was really involved in that. So, just kind of, I don't know, like living life, I never, like I said, I didn't take any community college courses. I never graded, nothing along those lines, but certainly was kind of out there in my community. I also lived in a pretty rural part of Connecticut. So it's not like there was a ton of, like local opportunities. So we really had to drive for all of the things.
For sure. That's so cool. So I know that so my kids go to a Sudbury school, a self-directed school, and we also unschooled for a while. And a lot of times, I really don't push anything on them at all. Like they are allowed to do what they want. A lot of times it has a lot to do with electronics too. Was that your experience? Was it like, okay, I can literally do what I want to do with my time, or was there like homeschooling implemented in?
So there was no homeschooling as such, though there were a couple of things that, I think unschoolers can be kind of dogmatic about the term unschooling, especially radical unschooling, and say, if it doesn't count as unschooling if you literally have any one thing that you require your child to do. And I just think that's so dogmatic. And, we're all in the same boat figuring out what's best for our, particular families and particular kids. So I'm not that dogmatic about it, but no, we didn't do any kind of like academic rules. There were a couple things that we were required to do. Like my brother and I had to do chores around the house. That was just considered part of being a productive and helpful member of the family, not leaving it all to my mom to do. So, unload the dishwasher, sweep the floors, things like that we were just expected to do daily. And it wasn't really a conflict. It was just, this is how we run the house. Until I was 12, we had a screen time limit. I honestly think that was a product of like the late 90s to early 2000s. We had dial-up, we had one computer for the whole family. It wasn't really like how it is now. We didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have a smart device or anything like that. I got my own laptop when I was 12. That's when all the rules around that went out the door. And that was really so that I could have dictation software and screen readers to help me with reading and to help me kind of communicate and participate in the written world a little bit more. That was when it really became obvious that I was not going to just become a reader, right? Like that was not my path. And so my parents helped me get this assistive technology, which I use to this day. Everything that I've ever written in my whole life has been dictation. I use a screen reader for everything. My father and grandfather are as dyslexic as I am, and they went to school, except they have a ton of trauma around it and can barely even identify with the word dyslexia because they just think it's so shameful. And I'm out here just like, yeah, I'm dyslexic. But yeah, so we did have some screen time limits, some chores. Other than that, yeah, just, being respectful towards each other in the family, thinking about everyone's needs in the family. We had family meetings all the time. We'd have these big sit downs where when we all got a vote, everyone's vote was the same, my brother and I would outvote our parents, depending on, what the issue was. So yeah, it was pretty democratic and not a lot of particular requirements.
Awesome. That's really refreshing to hear. I think that because a lot of times I think that that's why I asked that question, is because I think parents are like, am I doing too much unschooling? Is like, should I be implementing something? It's just really refreshing to hear someone as like, I don't know, so articulate and just really awesome as you come off as saying, hey, no, my parents didn't make me do any of that stuff, but I'm fine. It's really nice.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of anxiety along the way for the parents and the kids, right? I would see my peers, when you're in school, you learn a lot of facts. Like it's a very fact-based, facts about, war dates and presidents and math facts and science, just not that it strings together into a coherent and excited understanding of history or of science. But, kids who've gone to school can tell you a fact about DNA. They have that. Are they excited about science? No, but they have a fact about DNA. And so, growing up, I felt a lot of times like, am I doing enough? Am I smart enough? Am I good enough to participate in adult life? Am I going to be able to make it if I want to go to college? And I know my mom had a lot of those same moments of doubt at different times, and I think it's a really big thing for unschoolers, right? There's just, it can be hard to find community around this, like-minded people. It's hard. We're often so scattered. I certainly didn't grow up in an area with a plethora of other, truly unschooling families to talk to about this stuff, which is actually why the conference that I know and was so important. I made lifelong friends there who were other unschoolers, one of whom I live with now. And really having that connection to other unschoolers was just huge for me to kind of overcome those moments of doubt.
Okay.
Yay. And that was why Angela and I started the Facebook group, because I was looking around. I had learned about the Sudbury School and self-directed education from Abraham Hicks, who's a spiritual teacher. I don't know if you're familiar with them. So I found out about them when I was pregnant, and I was like Googling and researching, and I found a lot of facts, but I couldn't find actual real life people to talk to. And then, fast forward, it was always the child led was always sat right with me because it kind of corrected a lot of the issues I had that stemmed from being so judged all the time, constantly graded, constantly judged, rewarded for good grades and punished for bad grades. And I just had no sense of self. I was just waiting for them, oh, yeah. So anyways, that's why we created Connect Unschoolers. And whether it's people just looking into it or experienced unschoolers, we kind of put the self-directed education kind of together with the unschooling so that basically you're allowing children to follow their own interests rather than dictating to them what and how they're going to learn. So yeah, I mean, I love building community because I could not even, and this was just, like 5 years ago, a couple of years ago, I couldn't even really find that many people. But so I'm so glad that you started networking, geez, a long time ago. It just so happened that in Western Mass, there was a conference running. Is that how it came about?
No, so the conference was originally in Wakefield, Mass, and we were in Connecticut. So we were driving many hours to go to this conference every year, and stay at the hotel that it was at, and connect with other unschooling families. And in 2019, the founder, Catherine Baptista, she, her son is a bit older than me. He's married. She's a grandma now. Just running the conference was not as, I think, just important in her life. Right? She's kind of moved on to the next phase of her life and was kind of ready for someone else to take it over. And myself and Rhiannon Small, who's another unschooler who I met at the conference when I was 8 years old, probably, right? And her and I have been just lifelong friends since we met. We decided to approach her and ask if she was ready to kind of have a change in leadership. And she said, yeah, absolutely. And that was in late 2019. So, the best time to get into the conference industry, I would say. The world shut down about 3 months after we signed the paperwork. And we said, oh no, what do we do? So there's been a little bit of a challenge, right? We ran it on Zoom for the last 2 years, which is just not the same, right? It's just not the same. It's not the same as connecting in person with other families. It's completely different. And it was great. I mean, we had a great conference last 2 years, keynote speakers, panels. It gave the opportunity for people to join from all over the world. We had, a guest join us from Africa. I mean, it's so cool. Every continent that you can think of, we have someone joining and sharing about self-directed education in their country, in their continent. It's really a cool experience, but I think we're ready to be back in person and have that kind of connectivity with other families. Because that's the other thing is, right, kids don't go to Zoom events, really. It's just not, it's not fun to be a kid and sit there on Zoom. They want to run around and play with each other. So I think it's been, parents have gotten to connect at the last couple of years of the conference, but not so much young people.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what is the event that you host?
Yeah, I haven't even gotten there yet. Yeah, so it's called the Northeast Unschooling Conference. It's almost 20 years old. Catherine is not sure what year she founded it, so we think it's 18 or 19. It's been, running strong this whole time. This year we decided to move it. So we had it at a hotel previously, but the hotel was kind of just hesitant about allowing us generous cancellation for our guests, given the pandemic situation. They wanted us to really, have our guests commit and say for sure that they were going to be there months before the event. So to have a little bit more flexibility, we moved the conference to Hampshire College, where I went to college. And I'm super excited about it because Hampshire is actually a college that is really excited about unschoolers. The word unschooling appears on their website, and that is just super unique. They are, actively excited about the unschooling community because that is kind of what their educational philosophy as a college is really based on. So I don't want to talk about it too much because it's not an opportunity to promote Hampshire, but I just had a great experience there. But so yeah, we're having it at Hampshire College. It's really an opportunity for parents, families, kids to come connect, meet each other, learn about unschooling. It's not just for people who are currently unschooling, but anyone who's just interested in self-directed education, maybe wants to know more, make local connections. It was a hugely important event for me growing up. And I think that's why Rhiannon and I kind of wanted to step up to the mantle a little bit and take it over, is because it can be really, my experience was that it could be really isolating for me as an unschooler, just not having a lot of community, not knowing other unschooled young people. And then I kind of went to this conference and made these, like I said, lifelong friends. And my mom also made lifelong parent friends. And it was just really meaningful for our whole family. And so the conference is really an opportunity to connect, to get together. There's workshops, panels. We'll have a panel of grown unschoolers all sharing their stories, all sharing their journeys. We have a keynote speaker, Noah Romario, who is a PhD candidate in Indigenous research. He's just about to get confirmed in his PhD, I think in a couple weeks, actually. I think he will be by the time we have the conference. And he does a ton of research in unschooling. It's really cool. He publishes in the Journal of Unschooling and Self-Directed Education. It's a unschooling academic journal, really definitely worth checking out. To come in and give a keynote speech. We have on-campus housing. So Hampshire College has dorm rooms that we're staying in, but people don't have to if you're in the area. Just come for the day. And also there's tons of other housing options available in the area, right? It's a college town, it's a bunch of hotels. But yeah, really just and a bunch of fun just activities too, right? We're gonna do an actual frog dissection. I'm a science teacher at my high school that I work at, and my real goal with science is not to give people a bunch of facts, but to kind of ignite a passion that science is fun and it's interesting and it's applicable to all of us. And so I'm going to do some kind of unschooly sciencey workshops, and we're going to do tie-dyeing, and just get together and meet other families and make connections. And I will say the event it's not thousands of people, right? This is not a huge, corporate event. We're all volunteer run. It's the first unschooling conference to be run entirely by grown unschoolers, which I think is really exciting. For a long time, parents have kind of been in that role because unschooling as a movement is relatively new. We're among the oldest grown lifelong unschoolers that are in the world. So we're super excited to be kind of taking over a little bit of leadership in this movement too, and having our voices in the movement. We're the only space that we know of that hosts an exclusive space just for unschoolers to talk about what it is like to be an unschooler. So that's always a really exciting space. Parents are not invited. But we have, again, a grown unschooler panel for folks to ask questions and us to be a little bit more outward facing. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. We're getting a bunch of registrations. We got 2 new families registered this afternoon. So yeah, we're super excited about it.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. Super interesting. So is that, you said that is in person this year? So,
it is, yes.
Okay. Oh, I wish I was in Massachusetts. I would come join.
I wish so too. Yeah.
Oh, you think that's funny? You think that's funny? So I'm curious about, I've heard of Lighthouse, the school that you work at. I think I've seen like a little YouTube video or something on it. It looked really, really inspiring. I'm curious how you said you're a science teacher there, and I'm wondering how that's incorporated at that school.
Yeah, so Lighthouse is awesome. I love working at Lighthouse, actually. So Lighthouse's model is based on unschooling. There's 2 founders of Lighthouse. One is an unschooling mom, and the other is an alum of Hampshire College. And together they created this model that is, no tests, no grades, no mandatory classes. It's kind of a giant building with classrooms and a bunch of adults who are passionate about stuff and are excited to talk about the things that they're passionate about, and a bunch of teenagers who may or may not want to talk to those adults about the things they're passionate about. Right? They don't have to come to class. Everything is optional. They can come, they can not come, they can come 2 times and then decide they don't like it, whatever they want. They receive narrative evaluations. So if they do decide to come to classes, each teacher will write a full, robust description of the person as a student, as a learner. What could they work on? What did they do really well? That's just designed to help them just kind of improve on their journey. Each student has an academic advisor who works with them one-on-one to figure out, what are you passionate about? Oh, you want to learn Japanese and we don't have a Japanese teacher? Great, let's find some resources online to help you learn Japanese, just as an example. yeah, it's a really great environment. And one of the things about it that's super unique is that we are located in Holyoke, Massachusetts, which for anyone who is not from Massachusetts, is a city district. We're mostly with low-income students of color. So we have a much more diverse learning community than a lot of these other kinds of unschooling or homeschooling groups, because we're able to really reach a lot of people who wouldn't ordinarily have the opportunity to homeschool or unschool because their parents work, or maybe they have one parent, or maybe they're in foster care. So we have this really diverse population. And then we have a bunch of people who are unschoolers or homeschoolers, but are looking for, an opportunity for either their kids to socialize, or maybe to have a little bit more structure if they want it. And yeah, so I teach science. And I say science broadly because I've taught all sorts of things. It can be literally whatever myself and the students are interested in. So I've taught everything from, I just finished teaching microbiology and research methods, and a class called speculative evolution, which is the science of trying to figure out what will happen to life on Earth in, say, 500,000 years. Evolution is not done, right? Everything is still evolving. We just don't think of it that way. So speculative evolution is kind of what's going to happen. It's really exciting. It's super creative. And, I've taught epidemiology and the sexual and reproductive biology of everything. And I've done, frog dissections and a class on the science of drugs, and, anything that the kids are interested in learning about and that I can provide. And like I said, the goal is to really just get people excited about science. Science it's really cool. It doesn't have to be boring or scary. And, a lot of the kids come to us with, some real school trauma. They've been told that they're stupid and they're bad at stuff and they're getting D's in their classes. And, a lot of these kids are coming from schools where they're getting physically tackled, in pins for, bad behavior. They go to these detention rooms that are solitary confinement, and they could be there for 5 or 6 days on end. These really horrible school situations. And then we have this just totally free, do what you want, learn about what you want space. So yeah, my job as a science teacher is really just to kind of make science accessible and get people stoked about it and talk about all the cool stuff that science does. And I don't really care if they leave microbiology not being able to define the anatomy of a cell, as long as they are excited about microbiology. I'm like, yeah, I've done my job.
I'm so curious. So when you teach a class, is it something that's just offered? You're like, okay, today I'm just gonna be excited to offer this, and then students can meander in and see if it interests them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they are scheduled classes. We have trimesters, so there's 3 trimesters a year. We create the curriculum entirely ourselves. So say the students ask me for microbiology. So last block they said, can you teach microbiology? Sure, yeah, why not? So on the first day of class, I might sit down with the students who signed up for it. They can register, and if they're registered, they can choose to come or not to come. So the students who show up on the first day, I'm like, all right, what do you want? What are you hoping to learn from this class? And together we'll kind of make a syllabus of what they are hoping to get out of it. And then from there, they can choose to come to class, not come to class, whatever is fine. I would say most of them miss at least 5 classes just because they don't feel like it. Or, maybe we're talking about something that, we were talking about cancer in one of the classes, particularly cell growth in areas that cells aren't meant to replicate. So your skin cells are constantly replicating, right? But your eye cells don't replicate. So we're talking about, things like eye cancer and brain cancer. One of the kids was like, no, no, absolutely not. I am leaving for the day. And that's totally fine. Didn't want to hear about it. Great. And so, he stepped out of the room and they take care of themselves. And sometimes it's just, I don't feel like it. I'll go up to a kid and be like, hey, class is about to start. You want to come? No, I'm on TikTok. Okay. Have fun.
I like that addition into the school. I really like that. The school that I work at. I also work at the school that my kids go to, but
Oh,
like,
cool.
yeah, like they have an online program where they do some of that stuff, just because they were like, how do we have an online program? Like, how do you get kids to like do things together? And so they would have a staff advisor that then asks them what events they want to host, is kind of how it works off. And those events that they
Cool.
host can turn into classes. Like they might, like we had like a tarot card class, and there's like Hawaiian mythology that goes off all the time. But that really stems from the fact that like you have to have something, because otherwise, because if it's online, like you're not just like hanging out in a space with the other kids, so you have to like have something organized at least that people could join. But on campus we really haven't implemented something like that. And I feel like a reason could be that the kids are not just gonna like come up with it themselves. Like, oh, if classes and stuff like that are not part of the culture, it's like, where is it going to come from? Where are they, like, maybe they won't like think like, hey, let's do a class. So it's interesting idea to like, I don't know, offer classes or just share what you're interested in and be like, hey, yeah, this is what I'm doing today, and see if it catches on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all a product of the environment that we're in. So when we get kids from the public school district, they have a hard time imagining not going to class, right? Like they just go to class because they think they're supposed to. And they may have no interest in the subject. They're sitting in the back on their phone. They'll be like, hey, do you want to be here? Because you can just go do that in the common room. You don't have to pretend to be in class, right? But then if you have kids, right, who maybe have never experienced class, or that's not part of the culture, they might not even think that that's an option of a way to learn because they just haven't been exposed to it. So that's kind of a lot of what we do at Lighthouse, is just kind of, we have, unschoolers who've never been in class before alongside kids who've been in a really, struggling inner city school that, class is beyond compulsory. And so bringing these two groups together is kind of a really interesting mix, right? We have some kids who are like, class, what is that? And some kids who are like, sitting on TikTok during the school day, what? It can't be. So it's really cool to see. And I think that's totally true. It's all a matter of what you've been exposed to and what you can imagine. Helping kids broaden their imagination about what they can pursue is just, it's so fun to me.
Yeah, totally. I wonder, I see that Andrea turned her screen off, but I wonder
I'm still here.
Hi, I wonder if you have any questions, if anything comes to mind.
Well, I
now.
came off video because it's getting buggy and I keep like swatting things. So, but I'm still here. I'm listening. I'm just so happy to learn about that, the style of unschooling school that you work at, because I'm kind of used to the Sudbury model where it's just a complete free for all. And we actually, my daughter and I visited the Sudbury School in Massachusetts, and she loved it. But it was, it was too far of a ride for us at the time. It would have been like an hour each way. So then we just started unschooling at home, but it did not seem that there are any classes at all there. It's just the kids are just literally roaming around the school. And if by chance something interests them, they can ask one of the staff to, to give them a lesson or to teach them more or to help them find more information.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that can be a great model for some learners. And I think that's part of kind of what I was referring to earlier about not having so much dogma. Some people are really going to vibe with that. That's going to be exactly what they need, just kind of free roaming time with supportive adults there to, offer interesting things when asked. And some kids are not going to like that, right? Like, right. I know a lot of unschoolers who asked to go to high school and went and had a great time. Some people want to be in school, and some people don't want to be in school. So I'm a big advocate of do what is right for you and for your family, and not worrying so much about, oh, is it really unschooling? Is it blah, blah, blah. That's why there's so many different educational models out there, so that we can have opportunities that meet the needs of every type of learner. But a thing I do really love about Lighthouse is that, we have that opportunity if they want to just kind of roam the building and hang out with their friends. They're free to do that. Lots of kids do. But if they do want to have something a little bit more organized, there's that also. We also have a great staff team of tutors who are there to just, oh, you want to study for the SAT? Great. We have an SAT tutor.
Awesome. Yeah, that is so cool. And, we we've got about like 9 more minutes. I'm super interested just to hear about the conference, because my daughter and I might actually be able to come. So of course, I can. I'm just trying to think of the details. So children can come, correct? So she's 8, she'll be 9, probably by the time, because the conference is in July, correct?
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, just talk to me about like logistically, like my daughter and I show up, and do I pick things and she picks things, or do we just hang out together, or like how
Yeah,
it
so let
works?
me get into some logistics.
Yeah.
So the conference is in Amherst, Mass, like I said, at Hampshire College. Hampshire College has dorm rooms, and that's where guests will be staying if they choose to stay with us. The thing about Hampshire's dorm rooms is that most of them are singles. So in order for kids to stay in the dorm rooms, they need to be comfortable sleeping separately, like in a separate room, side by side, but in a separate room. And they need to be 11 years old or older. If they are under 11, each kid under 11 needs a parent to come with them. I know it's not ideal, but it's a COVID thing, like hopefully next year we'll be at a proper hotel and this issue will be solved. But just with everything that went down this year, hotel didn't seem like the right move for our guests. So we went here and this is how it is. So we do have some doubles available. We have 8 of them, I think. 2 of them are spoken for. And those would allow a parent and kid to sleep together in a room. But there needs to be 1 parent for every kid under 11. So that just to put that out there. We are also masking while indoors at the conference. This is something that I will say we've gotten a tremendous amount of negative feedback about. We know it's not ideal for a lot of families to be masked while indoors at this point in the pandemic, but it is for our community and for our guests, it's what we're going with. We're not doing a vaccine mandate. Instead, we're doing a mask mandate. So just to be clear about that, I just want to put that out there. But we will have a kind of a workshop track for parents that'll have several options, each time slot, and then also for kids. So more hands-on activities for kids. Like I said, we'll do things like tie-dyeing, and we'll do a frog dissection, and we'll have, I think we're gonna have a room. I'm gonna try to fill a room with giant cardboard boxes for people to just play in. We'll have a sensory kind of destimulation room and lots of opportunity for people to just kind of hang out, play games together. I think historically at NUC, Northeast Unschooling Conference, shortens to NUC. Historically at NUC, that has been kind of one of the most valuable things for people, is just having time to freeform connect with other people. But then we'll also have, specific facilitated discussions. I think a lot of the programming is geared towards people who don't have infants, just because of the situation at Hampshire. But that said, feel free to reach out to us. I can put it in the chat or in the group, nucinfo@gmail, NEUCINFO@gmail. And we're happy to work with anyone in any situation. Like I said, the conference is entirely volunteer run. We can't officially say that we're a nonprofit because we're not incorporated as a 501c3 because we're volunteer run and we don't have the capacity to do that. But it is a non-profiting organization. And it's a complete sliding scale. So reach out to us, no questions asked, sliding scale for any attendee. Just let us know how much you need discounted and we can discount up to 100% off the conference rate. We're really interested in just getting community together more than anything else. The things that we can't discount are the dorms because we have to pay for them, and the meal plan. So if you're coming and you're staying in the dorms, it can be kind of hard to navigate the food situation. So there's also a meal plan provided by the college with vegan, gluten-free, vegetarian, and dietary restricted options. So you can just sign up for a meal plan as well. And that's another thing we can't discount because that's a solid cost to us. But anything else, like really reach out. We're really just, trying to have a get together for families to meet and connect the way our families did, Rhiannon and mine, that allowed us to form this friendship, that allowed us to take on this conference. So we're really just kind of pass down this sense of community and sense of connection with other families and just the ability to spend time with like-minded people and have, things like panels of grown unschoolers. We'll have workshops on the college entrance process and on the career track as well. Something that Rhiannon and I are both really passionate about is that sometimes unschoolers who go to college kind of get held up on this pedestal of saying like, oh, well, this is what success looks like. But we're really dedicated to success looks like happiness in life. It looks like being your authentic self. And that could be college, but it could be not college. So we'll have unschoolers, they're grown unschoolers my age, to talk about what it's like to be an unschooler in college or what it's like to not, and to pursue your career path instead, and how to find your passions and act on them. But also, how to report in Massachusetts, how to navigate that as an unschooler. Because a ton of the kids I work with at my co-op are unschoolers. I write about 15 homeschooling reports every year. We write them for the families. The families don't have to worry about it. I do like 15 a year. So I'm super well versed in it. And yeah, just excited to kind of connect with people, answer questions, and kind of do some community building for a community that is really disparate, right? We're spread out all over the place. We don't have a lot of centralized moments together. So really just kind of creating a moment for us to connect and to be together and to, hear from this incredible keynote and have these panels and have some community together.
Yay, that sounds awesome. Thank you for telling me more. I'll have to look into it and look into the details. We have a camper, so we would probably just like try to find a place to camp.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I'll have to look into the dates. Are there outdoor options? Personally, my daughter and I are not really big on wearing masks. Are there outdoor gatherings, or is it mostly inside, or is it mixed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's plenty of outdoors. Hanford College is set on I want to say it's 150 acres of wooded land. So there's a ton of outdoor space. I'm not sure how, it's in July, so I'm not sure how appealing it will be to be, truly outside in July. But one of the things we are thinking about is we have these sort of classroom spaces that we can be in, but we could take any one of those, a discussion group or whatever, and just move ourselves outside. There's a ton of space there. We're going to be the only ones on campus in the area that we're in, and it's huge. So there's plenty of opportunities if people want to. It's just a matter of how comfortable will people be, outside in New England in July. If it's 95 degrees, maybe we'll say, we'd like to be in AC and wear a mask more than be outside and not. So that's something that we can kind of navigate moment by moment. And I know a lot of people are not stoked about the mask thing. And it's a tough decision, I think, as an event organizer right now, how to navigate this moment of the pandemic. So this year we're going with masks, and we're really, really hoping that next year we can return with absolutely no COVID policies at all and feel like that is a safe way for us to gather. But one of the things about our conference is that we are really committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, kind of having some of these core concepts at the center of our conference, which means centering POC speakers and making space for neurodivergent folks and allowing some of our older or immunocompromised members to feel like they can come join us. So that's why we're going with masks this year, but I know it's not ideal for a lot of people. So definitely if you have questions or concerns about the mask policy or any other thing, please feel free to reach out, and we will get back to people over email and have been in communication with a lot of people, especially about the COVID policies.
Okay, yeah, and just one last question before we wrap up. There is a virtual option. So like if my daughter and I can't get out there, or really anyone else listening, I would imagine, just as the adult, or would I still register as a family, or how would that work if we just wanted to do virtual?
Yeah, so there are several ticket options on the website. One of them is virtual. So the way that works is it's just one price, and share the link with anyone in your family, or frankly anyone. It's just one price. And again, there's a sliding scale for everything. So if you want to come virtually and you don't want to pay for it, just email us and we'll give you a 100% off code. I don't want to be too liberal about the discount because we're paying for the space and all the things. So, use your discretion, but we're happy to accommodate anyone. So there is a virtual option. The one thing I will say about the virtual option is at this point, we're thinking that we're probably not going to Zoom people into panels. We're going to not Zoom people into discussions, sorry. So if people are having, say, a discussion on, we're gonna have a discussion on unschooling in math, where everyone shares about their concerns about that. We're probably not gonna Zoom in people who are not at the conference. The Zoom option is gonna be for keynote speakers, panels, like the opening and closing ceremony, that sort of thing. So just to kind of keep that sense a little bit of community there in person. So the virtual option is for, the keynote and the panels, Grown Unschoolers panel, college entrance panel, careers panel, that sort of thing.
Awesome. All right. Well,
We're really stoked to offer a virtual option too, because there are a lot of people who might want to come but aren't in the area. And we want to create that sense of community for those folks too.
Oh, sorry, I unmuted myself to say that. Yay! There's a virtual option. And she started yelling.
Yes! Yay!
Yay! Awesome. All right. So we'll upload this and we'll post the details, and I'll ask you some questions. And I'm so happy that you're doing this. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for just sticking with it, and providing space for newer parents like us. And I'm sure you think a lot about the children, like my daughter, and all the parents that are on this call. We all have children that are navigating this, and so I appreciate people. I appreciate you and your colleagues who are helping us out and providing opportunities for us to learn more and talk about it and just raise awareness. So yay, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I hope to see some people there and kind of build community and connect with people in person. Nice broccoli.
I keep wanting to unmute to just say thank you for coming on, but he's yelling, and it was really great to meet you. It's too loud. But thank you so much. It was awesome listening to you, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the chance to tell you all about my life and my work and my college and my conference. Thanks for listening.
All right. I think that about sums it up. How are you feeling, Andrea? It's 4:03.
Good. Yeah, I think we're all set. This wraps up another awesome group call. Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
We'll see you all in the group.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.